Hello and welcome to Karma on Deck. I'm Karma. This is Tarot According to Karma. I have a 6-week Tarot 101 class, and I teach a Zoom class where you get to sit in a group setting and have an open discussion about tarot. And I walk you through the process of how to study your deck, what to look for, what to ignore, and how to generally get started so that you don't feel so intimidated by tarot in general. So, for those of you that know me, know that I'm like the great myth buster, right? I'm practical magic. I'm the pragmatic paramedic slash psychic. So everything I look at as simply as possible. And in doing so, I want to give you that gift of trying to make things simple. The things I wished I'd known about tarot, the lessons that I'd learned, the roadblocks that I had. And if I had had one mentor that took away some of the crap that they tell us to do or not to do with tarot, I probably would have gotten a lot further. But 25 years ago, there was still a lot of mysticism, secrets, and just not like secret keeping, but there was generally this whole idea of like tarot being this huge mystical adventure. But I think had it been made easier for me, I wouldn't have been so intimidated by it. So my goal here is to break some of what's the word I'm looking for? The stigmas toward tarot. I want you to be able to utilize it like a tool and experience tarot simply, easy. It's definitely an intimidating task with 78 cards to learn images, imagery, mythology. There's a lot of rules to it. For example, I remember people telling me to wrap it in silk. I remember people telling me to not allow anyone else to touch my deck. And then I had even others that adamantly insisted that my clients were the ones to shuffle. There are even rules about like doing reverse meanings and different spreads and environments and whether you should put it in the moon and have crystals around it and burning sage. And there's 1,000 things I can think of just right now that like made it so incredibly intimidating. And so for me, I think I'd been given, as a psychic, I think I'd been given a bunch of decks multiple times where I was given the Rider-Waite tarot deck, and it just didn't resonate with me. I had a very hard time learning it. I felt very confused, overwhelmed. I felt like there was just entirely too much shit to learn. There was pictures, there was images, there were numbers, and none of it seemed, I mean, even though they were organized, right? There was still the 4 different suits and the majors, which they have like actually names on them, but I had a hard time differentiating between what one like suit looked like versus another, and the pictures just didn't click. And it wasn't until for me that I just fell in love with an Egyptian tarot deck that was built in similar structures with just a few differences, that when I discovered it, I was so passionate about learning the deck that I just literally sat with the little booklet. I know I have some like little booklets for each deck, has its description. So it didn't make it too hard. Each one of the decks that you buy has a manual or a little packet or a book, a general book, like we have one here. We have the Tarot of Dreams book here. I know I've got a Mystic Dreamer around here somewhere. We have the Divination of the Ancients over here, which is actually a oracle deck, but they have descriptions in the book. So even though each one of these decks comes with a book or a pamphlet, I still felt like ridiculously intimidated. I felt like I had to sit here with this little teensy book and 78 cards. And like, so what I did was I come up with a little system of studying because I like to make things practical. Hello, astrology. Capricorn, Sun, Pisces, Moon, Aquarius rising. Aquarius, Moon, Pisces rising. Got to figure everything out. Practical magic is definitely a Capricorn, Pisces, right? So I got that little booklet and I studied the hell out of that little thing, and I learned this deck inside and out, and I loved it. But what I did learn was that it had the same structure as the other tarot decks. The images were different, but it was 1 through 78. It had majors and minors. It had wands, which was, I don't know, staffs or something, but they were still structured exactly the same. And so through that lesson, I learned that, oh, and I even made the mistake of getting an oracle deck or 3 or 5. In doing so, I ended up collecting oracle decks that did not have the structure of tarot. So some of them had 36, some had 42, and there was just very like varied variations of oracle decks. I mean, everything you can think of, from angels to traditional shamanism to all kinds. So in that journey, I learned that there were some tricks that I had found to make things easier. And I want to share those with you. But first, what I want to do is just give you a good look at some of these. So I don't want to get into the history of tarot, but I will mention just a couple things first so that it can keep us all on the same page. I'm not going to do a history lesson. That's what we all have tarot for. Okay. I did write down some things that were important, and I wanted to say, welcome. Thank you for hanging out with me and trusting me. I promise not to lead you astray, but like I said, this isn't for like a, Rider-Waite specific, like ritualistic type jam. This is, tarot according to karma. Like, I make things easy. And if you are here, you are likely referred because I'm very unique. But Rider-Waite is often known as the tarot deck. Okay. It's likely because it was the first mass produced deck, and it was widely distributed and published. So for, people who had things handmade or handcrafted, the invention of machines that had the ability to reproduce things in mass quantities really shifted our focus to this deck, and it became very wildly popular. So the origin of tarot, it's been argued, like it's one of those things like people talk about over time. It's disputed over. To some, it's been attributed to the Egyptian representation of the lost Book of the Dead. And they believe the spiritual origin started there, and it's likely having knowledge of the secrets of Egypt and its teachings lost in the annals of time. A famous Egyptologist debunked the theory and wrote a discourse stating the origins and history of tarot began in either the late 14th or 15th century in northern Italy. See, isn't this boring? But anyways, the first recorded deck was known as the Visconti Sforza, created for the Duke of Milan's family, and it was just a deck of playing cards, okay? So they started out as a game and eventually got used for divination. Now, according to a lot of different individuals, they talk about using the tarot and the deck that was in play at the time for telling secrets, right? If we remember the fish symbol, at the time of Jesus, they would write the fish in the sand in order to identify one another as Christians. So similar things were going on with tarot. And this is what I used to know. I didn't study any of this now, but this is what I used to know back in the past. So if you want to study this, go for it. This is not why I'm here. But I just wanted to say that the symbols, and this is why it's important, is the symbols had a meaning for them, and common culture caused them to look at these symbols with specific ideas. So if I'm playing a game of cards and I want to talk politics, and remember, heretics were killed back in the day. If you talked against religion or the government, you could be hung or stabbed. Or what is the thing where they like slowly allow you to die on a staff and just kind of, you just kind of stand out there and die and outside, and you get used as an example. Well, so tarot was a big secret for a really long time, because there was, anytime you went against politics or the government or the king, there was a lot of problems. So in order to avoid those problems, they would discuss politics by using this deck of cards. So the Hierophant, we're talking about, and over here we're talking about the king and the queen, but we're really just playing a game of cards. So there was a lot of mysticism due to that too. So, and secrets. So tarot is our secret keeper. But let's not get lost in all of that. This tarot is known as a staple of divination. Okay, so it's one of the main tools that people use. We have 1,000 different ways to do things. Everything from dowsing to pendulum to runes. I can get into runes too. There's astrology. Ta-da! Astrology is all the magic, right? So crystal ball. We have scrying. There's lots to be seen. So with all of this staple, there is a lot of stigma and myths, and I am the great myth buster, so I'm going to make this as easy as possible. And if you forgive me for any of that and just go to the root, like I always say, sage is like your Lysol and salt is like your antibacterial for your body and your home. You use these items in a spiritual capacity. Well, you're using these cards in the same way. So you can find all the trivia your heart desires on the internet, so I'll spare you all of those details, but I did just want to give you a background of what I have come to know about tarot. So please, if this conflicts with you in any way and this isn't useful, I would encourage an open discussion, but this is just my little playground of how I use these tools. So starting out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of differences on images, and here's why. So in my journey, I found the Egyptian tarot back in the day. I don't know where that deck went. Man, do I love it. But what I discovered in that journey was I wished someone had stopped telling me, you should only use this deck, the Rider-Waite Tarot, and you should always have it given to you. It must come as a gift. If it's not given to you, it's no good. Don't let anybody touch it. Put it in a silk bag. Make sure there's a crystal. Burn it with sage every now and then, like dust it off with some sage. Put a little salt on the crystals. Wrap it in silk. Make sure it goes out by the full moon for 24 hours, and then don't touch it. Put it under your pillow so you can remember all the things that you learned about the tarot. Integrate your tarot deck. Carry it with you. Don't let anyone touch it. Right? So there's a lot of these little, God, there's so many more too, right? So a lot of these are true and a lot of these are effective, but don't forget that a lot of practices become dogma. So I don't want you to be afraid of paper and ink, okay? So what I want you to do, my recommendation is, because we're all structurally different, we're all culturally different, we're male and female, young and old, Muslim, Christian, Catholic, Mormon, agnostic, indigenous, tribal, we're shaman. We're all different backgrounds. Now, I'm not saying what you are currently, but I'm saying that we have our brains wired to look at certain images in some positive and negative ways. I personally can't stand the Ouija board. Don't ask me my reasons. I don't have any. I just don't feel like studying it enough to give you some answers. Maybe someday I will, because I totally have dismissed it as a tool. I don't like it. So we're not going to talk about why. I just don't. But there's certain images that I don't like and do like. But there are certain images within the tarot deck that are consistent that I had to come to terms with. We're going to get into that later in class. But so my recommendation is, since we're all wired so very differently, I want you to shop, like beautifully shop. Like, I don't know what you do to relax, but get your glass of wine and get your little tablet or your computer or your cell phone and sit there and just relax and browse around for some tarot decks. And when you start finding some that you like, go look up the images on there, order it. It's impossible for you to touch a deck for the most part. First of all, COVID. Oh, did I say the thing? Sorry, I said the thing. So you have all of these, restrictions to why you can't touch them. They're usually in a package. Often going into the shop, they don't let you touch them because there's a huge myth about touching the deck. So they keep them behind glass. They keep them sealed up. And if they do have a deck, it's, that's out, you have to ask to look at it and whatever. And it's just a whole process. You can usually see all of the images on a deck of cards on the internet, or browse them enough to know what you're looking for. So I would recommend that you find images that like make your soul light up. Like, I don't care if it's hobbits, Star Wars, fairies, angels, Egypt, American, druidic, pagan. Think of, I've seen everything from fairies to, I don't know, we've got the Toth deck here, if I mispronunciate, whatever. I have all kinds. So I even have a Steampunk Tarot. So I'm just going to show you some of the beautiful images that are on these decks, so you can have an idea of how fun this is. Some of my favorite decks for use are actually ones, so I love dragons. I have a tattoo all over of dragons, right? So there's this is already mixed up, but my favorite deck to use is the Dragon Tarot. I'm a little dragon, right? And I have these dragon protectors everywhere. So dragons inspired me. That was one of my first decks, after which I've had a few, like plenty years. Which is my Dragon Tarot right here. So this one is my go-to deck. I've had it like 20 years. And after it gets tired out and floppy and turns into soft as a blanket, I have to get a new deck because they start falling apart. But here are some of the images. I'm going to go through these for you so you can play with looking at them. Enjoy that. So you can see 2 of these are not tarot, but I wanted you to see them anyway. I'll describe and talk to you about how the differences are within them, because they're going to be the same. The structure is still going to be the same with tarot. That's why I recommend that you get a tarot deck before you get an oracle deck, because it'll just confuse everything. Here we go. Hope you're having a good time. Screw this one up. Okay. 21 times. Hold on. So this one right here is Tarot Dreams. I'm going to list all of these in the description, okay, because I don't want to get in trouble. So I'll be talking about each one of these. Oh, these are all mixed up. All right, I thought I had them all situated for you. See? Technique difficulty. So the first card in every deck. So you got to remember, as tarot is called the Fool's Journey. And the Fool's Journey literally just means that you go from 0, which is before birth, or be like literally at birth, or we travel and transcend from one phase, everything from motherhood to chaos to birth to change to marriage, all the way to the world and completion card. So the structure of the tarot goes from 0, being the Fool, being brand new, to the World card. Okay, so we have the World card, so the Fool to the World. That's your major arcana. That's what I'm going to be showing you guys today. If I have any mispronunciations, I apologize. I'm going to start out just like this. Yeah, these are good. Beautiful. All right. So, like I said, I'm just going to show you some comparisons of images. And just why it's so important to really research before you go spending money, because I don't know about you, but dropping off like a $30 purchase and not having it work for me can be kind of annoying. And now, like for me, anytime, like even it being weird with money in the world. So I'm gonna move this one out here because this one, Hanson Roberts tarot deck, is just a mini deck that somebody gifted me. But this is a really very almost traditional deck, and you can see how we have. This is the Lovers card. You can see just how beautiful some of these are made, but this is pretty traditional. They still have the symbols within them. So we have the Ankh over here. Look at that Wheel of Fortune here. So very different. Yeah. If you look here, so this would be the Fool card from this Hanson Roberts mini tarot. So there's our Fool card. And in the Fool card, you can see all these similar images. Just showing you, I'll be going over the major arcana in Tarot 101. Class 1 is going to be the majors. And we'll be talking about the differences between each suit. But right now I'm just giving you a close look at these. So see how this is the Fool card in the Toth deck. And this one's my Steampunk Tarot. Dreamer. Sensual Wicca. The Fool. And my Dragon Tarot. I know you guys are familiar with that one. And this deck right here is a gifted deck to me. It was called the Tarot, let's see, Masonic Tarot deck. Okay, and it's like in French. This is a rare one. So there's the Fool in that one. So you can see how different they can be for these images. There's the Magician in that one. Little Magician in this one. These are pretty traditional. Some of them are like really wispy and loving and, you know, fantastic, as in fantasy. And some of them are like water themed. Some of them are very graphic in images. And what I mean by that is that they are very dynamic, like very bright colors, which would be like in this deck right here, the Mystic Dreamer. I'm sorry, is that the Mystic Dreamer? No, that's Tarot of Dreams. So that's this one, in case you wanted to know. The Tarot of Dreams. So see the Magician here. This isn't the Thoth deck. I would recommend you wait to do this deck, or you're going to get lost immediately. The symbolism within this deck is going to take you a half hour per card. So unless you've got like an 80-hour work week that you have off, that you think you can just play with this and go overtime on it, go for it. But this is probably the hardest study I've ever had, was this deck. You can learn tarot and then just read them as they are and let the imagery come to you later. But I would recommend you go easy on that one. I'm still having a hard time with it. So this is my Steampunk Tarot, the Magician. See? Move through these quickly now. So the High Priestess. The Sensual Wicca one is kind of graphic. There's images of all kinds of crazy stuff in this one. There's the High Priestess. So you can see how wildly different they can be. I do want to show you a couple of these right here. These are the Ciro Marchetti, the Gilded Reverie. It's a Leormand deck. But you can get some really beautiful images, and the more beautiful they are, the more encouraged you're going to want to be to touch them. Like these are golden gilded. So the more and the thicker the better, because they'll last a lot longer. But you can see that these decks are very beautiful. I'm very inspired by these because these follow, you know, look, that's me. That's me. Sorry, I keep forgetting which camera to aim to. That's on my business card. So you can kind of see how they're also different and how like dramatic they can be, how specific. Okay, so the Thoth, you know, that one is the Alistair Crowley's belief system and ideologies within it. A lot of astrology in them, which will be a whole other class besides the Tarot 101. But the Sensual Wicca has to do with sexuality, sensuality, and relationships. The Dragon Tarot, it's each deck, when you pick them, they have a different tone. I know there's a lot out there. I had some really amazing ones that I had friends or family fall in love with, and I kind of gave it away. But they are of all kind, dark and light and fun, colorful or muted. I had one where a woman had gone 10 years and made big pieces of art out of everything from lace and string and newspaper cutouts, where she made these beautiful paintings that were each one of the tarot decks, and then she did pencil drawings of the minors, and then they were printed later, and they were just a very soft what's the word I'm looking for, the Victorian homes, like very Victorian with lace and muted colors. So you're going to find that, you know, in your journey shopping for a tarot deck, you're going to find that you're going to fall in love with some images. And that's what I would encourage you to do. I would encourage you to go seek out a deck that just lights you up and that you want to play with and get involved with and touch and open and enjoy. So that's your first step. Okay. So I want you to go out there and you start looking for your tarot deck. You do not need a deck of cards for you to study tarot. With my class, I would encourage you to get one by class 2 or 3. But if you want to do the spreads with your own deck by class 6, I would recommend you have a deck by then. I will have plenty for you to see and touch, play with, and talk about. During the classes, I'll be bringing all of these out for you to look at. So if you don't have your own and you really aren't ready to explore buying your own, there's lots of images for you to see here. So I would just hang tight, hang with me for a little bit. If you're ready for your class and you want to jump in there, come hit me up, Karma on Deck 702. If you want to jump in on the class, let me know. If you want to figure out how to get a tarot reading from me, please reach out, karmaondeck.com, and we'll book your session right away. Subscribe, like, follow, tell me what you thought of the video. Let me know what sign you are, so as I'm doing my videos, I can give you a shout out. Thank you for hanging out with me. And if there's anything I missed or you have any questions, please post them right away. And I will talk to you guys in class. Thank you.